everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Online Warriors podcast. Woo, woo, woo. I'm glad we were in sync on that one because we did not discuss that going in.
This is date night.
It is date night. Illegal is on vacation, being a happy boy, being away from us.
I want to give him credit though. He had said, "Hey guys, it's gonna be a photo finish. I might be able to attend. There's gonna be a lot of travel." And we said, "Dude, chill out. We can hold it down without you. We get it. You're the talent, as they call it. But you know what? We're talented too.
We're so talented." Now, he always gives us a little bit of like an intro, little gossipy topic to talk about.
I got it.
Okay. What do you got?
So this is going to he's going to want to talk about this next week. I can almost guarantee it, but I can also almost guarantee that there's a good chance that next week's show gets canceled. I don't know.
Well, he's not going to be around next week either. So it's going to be like a double date night, back-to-back episodes.
It's also literally Thanksgiving. So I don't know that we're going to have time to talk about this, but the thing that is going to come up is Black Friday's coming up.
Oh, that's right. Black Friday.
Do you Black Friday?
I do. I usually get all of my Christmas shopping done on Black Friday. And I don't go out, though. I mean,
that's not Black Friday.
I understand.
You online shop.
I do, but I take advantage of Black Friday deals. And what I do before you even wake up, because for any new listeners out there, Techtic and I, we're married, so we're in the same little household. And typically we're traveling for Thanksgiving. We're not this year. But I have a list and I go and populate all of my carts on all of my different store apps because, the like leaflets and the Black Friday ads come out. And so you kind of have an idea of what you want. And then as soon as usually it's like Wednesday night, as soon as Wednesday night, those prices transfer over to their Black Friday goodness, you best believe I'm hitting buy. So I have like a whole process. I don't go out and I don't like punch people to get TVs in stores anymore, but I do punch buttons on my phone to populate apps.
Here's the thing about going in those stores. So I've done Black Friday for a couple of years, and the thing is, I almost always go in with like, I'm going to get such good deals, and every year I end up getting a throw blanket for like $5, and that's the only thing I purchase. And like, I can't get behind all of this hustle and bustle and crowds for a $5 throw blanket.
Well, it's because everything is online, and there was a time when that was not the case. So there was a year, and it was actually funny. Techtic and I, we were early on in our dating, I believe, and we got each other Nintendo 3DSs. We hadn't discussed it with each other, but that's what we got the other person. So we basically ended up exchanging 3DSs. But I went out on Black Friday and actually took my parents, and we got the console. We got the device, and I could not have gotten it online for a better price. But those are the days. They don't do that anymore. Everything is matched easily online, so.
It's a shame. I want to punch someone.
I don't. And I also, I like to sleep after Thanksgiving. You have a lot of turkey. You just want to take a nap. That's what I want to do. I don't want to be out at the stores at 3 a.m. That's absolutely fair.
Plus, people are drinking Thanksgiving night, dangerously so. It's like the number one party year, and then there's traffic.
No,
there's
that's
also
usually
drunk
the night
drivers.
before Thanksgiving. The night before Thanksgiving is usually the biggest
But Thanksgiving, you're dealing with your family. People are drinking.
Yeah.
People be drinking.
Well, also, too, I always think about, I used to work retail, and having to work on Thanksgiving was the bane of my existence. And so sending people out there to work on Black Friday, which is usually Thanksgiving night, just horrible. And a lot of stores don't even do that anymore. They do not open until Friday, but that there's still people in the stores prepping for the big kahuna.
Do you know what else is a really big deal on Thanksgiving?
What?
It's not just Black Friday. It's football, which, by the way, we've got 3 topics in here, one of which touches on football. Did you know that?
I did know that because I'm prepared for this episode, but I'll let you launch right into it because I know you're a little bit more excited for this one. And this is one that I know Illegal, this is one of his favorite shows too. So he's probably very upset he didn't get a chance to talk about this.
So before we roll into this exact topic, we're going to talk about 3 different shows, movies, etc. We're going to talk about some airport movie. We're going to talk about Friday Night Lights. And we are going to talk about non-movie related.
Great Googly
Mooglies. So let's start with Friday Night Lights. It has been announced that Friday Night Lights is getting a reboot TV show. Now, I don't know if you've seen the TV show or the movie. Me personally, I fell in love with the movie. I think this IP... So this IP was adopted originally from a book, then went to movie, then went to TV show, and now it's getting rebooted as the lesser of all of the other medias is TV show, in my opinion. Hot take, I know, but I think the movie is perfect, okay? And the reason why I say this is because there is only so much like football drama that you can really get into in a series without it just becoming a high school drama. And that's why the movie kind of, I thought, was peak, and that should have been the thing that was rebooted, but I digress. The other thing that I want to know about this series, and kind of what I wanted to talk about and why I wanted to talk about this, is Nerdbomber. When you were in high school,
did I look like I was 30 years old? No, I did not.
This was over 10 years ago. So it was a while ago, but not that long ago. Did you observe the superstar personalities of like your football players, or did you observe that was sort of going to the wayside as a society where it's just another athletic sport?
I mean, I think it's probably a little different where I grew up. I'm not saying that, football wasn't a big deal in my school, because it definitely was. And we had people who were like multi-sport athletes who tended to be like the star in almost every sport that they played. But that said, I'm sure there are a lot of people who turned up on Friday nights to watch my high school team play, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I know it's very different though down in like the southern United States. I know high school football is a very, very, very big deal down there. So I think from like a culture standpoint, I just don't think it was big where I grew up. So I'm sure maybe when you have like an entire town hinging on these, in my opinion, these poor kids, like, sure, they probably do get superstar status in their school.
Fair enough. And the reason why I'd asked that is because I think they have to be careful on if they're going to reboot it. So this was based on, a very specific period piece, right? And if they reboot it, they can't do like a spin-off, hey, this is like a new time period. I think they have to do just that. Same location, same time period, just a new cast of crew, maybe some new problems sprinkled in, but ultimately stay true with the storyline. And why that's good is because this is kind of a tried and true, American story, but also as we get further and further down to the timeline, I think that like kids are going to find this harder to relate to.
I don't know. I feel like they can easily bring this into are we in the 21st century? What century are we even in? I don't know. I feel like they can very easily though get that series and modernize it.
But I think this has to be
world.
A period piece. I think it passes the sniff test if it's a period piece. And so like, and a good example of period pieces that didn't alienate the youths is Stranger Things, right?
The youths.
Well, it is, right? Because Stranger Things, it had things like D&D and stuff like that, that instead of being this foreign concept, it actually had a resurgence because of it. Right now D&D is popping off. Let me tell you, the community, exquisite. So as far as this show goes, aside from football, I'm curious what they're going to do to sort of like find those relatable heartstrings.
I don't know. I didn't watch the show. I will admit I didn't watch the show. I know it was a very big deal, but I didn't watch it. So I can't tell you how it was relatable back then because I didn't experience it. I was out here watching like Boy Meets World, and that's what I was relating to back in the day.
It was kind of the 80s, 90s kid experience. And I'm curious if they're going to modernize it, if they're going to stick with the time periods. I'm very curious, and it's sort of in the stages of the art of the possible. And that's my favorite part. That's the things I like talking about most on this show. So
I think that if they do it in such a way, like I'm just thinking about all of the reboots or new dramas that come out where they only get like 8 episodes and they're 45 minutes each, and you get them spaced out over like every 3 years you get a season. I do feel like it's going to fail because of that, because I think the TV show is so successful because back in that day, I mean, you were getting like 20 to 30 episode seasons. It was on every week, and it was kind of like a cultural zeitgeist. And I just feel like any show like this, I'm even thinking stuff like your Dawson's Creek or your
they become
OC.
Part of your family.
Right.
Because they're around so often.
I don't know if it works in today's format, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think that's an excellent point. And I guess we'll see if the new TV show formula allows it to have the same staying power.
Well, I just know, and we'll talk about this a little bit in What Are You Up To, although we've only watched one episode, but a good example of how that causes an issue. So we're into Vox Machina, and we're starting season 3, and we started watching it. And I don't even remember when season 2 came out, but there's such a long gap between seasons that we were like, we have no idea what's happening. Had to stop the first episode and go find like a recap on YouTube to catch ourselves up. And I feel like, especially when you're getting into dramas like that are very character driven, looking at their relationships and stuff, these long gaps between seasons, they're just killer.
Absolutely. So let us know what you think. Reach out on our handles. Let me know if you think my take of the movie being the best is a hot take or a cold take. Reach out to us on
Blue Sky. We're on Blue Sky now. We will probably mostly be on Blue Sky. We are on Twitter at OnlineWarriors1. And then on Blue Sky, we are at onlinewarriors.bsky.social, at ownerdbomber.bsky.social, and at techtic.bsky.social. And Illegal is nowhere. He is a man of mystery, and he is on no platform.
He's still on vacation. All right, so with that, we're going to roll into our next topic, which is what's going on with Google, and why does it not make sense?
So we just heard some news that the U.S. Department of Justice is planning to compel Alphabet, the parent company of Google, according to MSN, to sell off its Chrome browser. Chrome is the most popular web browser in the United States, with over half of Americans using it as their default browser. And apparently, they're saying that Google is a monopoly, and because the search engine is built into Chrome, that is, acting to maintain its monopoly. So they want them to break off the Chrome browser and moniker and sell it off so that, they don't have a search engine monopoly. And this is a very interesting thing because I feel like Google Chrome at this point is almost as ubiquitous with Google as the Google searches. When I think of like the two main things that Google is around for, Google Chrome and Google search, those are my two things that I think of. And I guess it's followed up maybe by Gmail. It's very weird to me though that this is the straw that they think is breaking the camel's back when you have other search engines. And I know Techtic was talking about this with me pre-show, but like you have Microsoft owns Bing,
Microsoft
Edge
owns
browser and an operating system, and Xbox.
Microsoft owns the PC that puts the Internet Explorer on it. Like that has so many more layers. And yes, I know there's a Chromebook. I know these things, but like as far as in that space of having the computer and the Explorer and the search engine, Microsoft's the one. This is insane to me.
And even Apple. Like when I think of my Mac, my MacBook, my iPhone. I mean, I know the iPod doesn't exist really anymore, but your iPad and then Safari is built in. And then,
but is Safari owned by Apple?
Safari is the built-in Apple.
I know it's
engine.
the built-in, but is it owned by Apple?
Safari is a web browser developed by Apple that's built into all of their operating systems. I think the thing that's very confusing to me here is how breaking the web browser off of like the Google search is going to make it less of a monopoly on the search engine, because that's the angle that they're taking here, is that they want to, break up the search engine monopoly. And I don't think it does that, because even when I use any other web browser, immediately Google becomes my default search engine. And I just don't see how this, helps any. I think it's just kind of a weird move. And I think if you want to break up a search engine monopoly, like I think you have to look at then establishing a non-affiliated open source search engine. And I don't know if we have one in the works or if there's one being developed, but that's the only really thing I can think. If you want to, say that a company owning a search engine is going to inherently influence the search results that people are getting, then you kind of have to look at all of them equally and or come up with a solution that's completely decentralized from all of these other, companies.
I think you're touching on the right point, and that's basically why go after one company and why not just make a law that says if you own, this, and this, or you can't have like interlinking technologies that basically force one to. Because, like, if you have the search engine, you're like, what's the best laptop? And you search it on Bing, and it's going to be like, oh, yeah, all these Microsoft tablets, get all these. Then there's an argument to be made, but make the law more generic. Don't attacking one head of a massive 6-headed dragon is not going to kill it. It's just going to make the one head mad. Like, make a law.
We see this happening not only now with Google and the search engines, but, TikTok, they've been going after TikTok for a while. And say what you will about how you feel about the security issues that people keep bringing up with TikTok. I mean, a lot of that's been classified information. We don't know what security issues we're really facing. supposedly that are out there. Everything's like redacted. If you really dig into it, everything is redacted. So it's really difficult to tell what the problem with TikTok is. But in that aspect, like they're going after TikTok, but then you have Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts that are doing the exact same things. And I feel like if we're really, as a nation, as consumers, having issues with these tech monopolies, you can't just pick one. But also I get that like you have to start somewhere, but it just feels like you can't just pick one, because then it just feels like you're picking on one of them and letting the other ones run rampant.
And it sounds like the person with the biggest purse strings is the one telling you to go after the other ones. It just doesn't make sense. So make general laws, people.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. But yeah, so we saw that ironically on MSN, which is a Microsoft, I don't even know what MSN stands for, but it's owned by Microsoft. So yeah, it just very
feels pointed.
Very interesting. So I don't have too much to say. I'm just very curious to see, what kind of precedent this is going to set, how the ramifications of the judgment will ripple throughout the rest of the industry. I feel like it's just a very curious thing to look at and watch. So I guess keep your eyes out for that. You might not be using Google Chrome any longer. You might just be using Chrome. Who knows? In summation, we are anti-monopolies as well, but do it the right way. Thanks for coming to Tech Tips with Techtic. And last but not least, before we move into our What Are You Up To Wednesday, which is jam-packed
No breaks today.
No, well, there will be a slight break.
One break today.
But the third thing that we wanted to talk about is a new trailer for an upcoming Netflix movie called Carry On. And this is coming out December 13th, directly to the Netflix streaming service. And it is a holiday-themed action movie. And I feel like we've been seeing a lot of these lately. You've been seeing stuff like Red One. There was that one with, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was in a bunch of movies. He was in the space movie on Apple. He was in the DC movie, help me with his name, you know who I'm talking about. He was like Silent Night or something like that.
The Rock.
Joel Kinnaman had Silent Night, that like action Christmas movie. Then there was that other one with the guy from Stranger Things, that Christmas action movie with David Harbour where he was a Santa Claus guy going around with guns. Never watched that either, but that was out there. And there's also the Rock one, Red One, with Chris Evans that just came out. And I feel like the Christmas action movie is something that the movie industry is really leaning into lately. And
they're trying to find their new diehard. They really are. And I feel like out of all of them so far, this might be one of the closer ones. I agree. So the premise of this trailer is Taron Egerton is working as a TSA agent on Christmas Eve, I believe, or Christmas Day. The next Mission Impossible guy. And he is basically blackmailed to let a dangerous package through security and onto a flight. And Jason Bateman is playing the bad guy, who like gives him an earpiece and basically says, let this package through or I'm going to kill your girlfriend. And then from there, it just seems like Taron Egerton is not going to comply. He's not going to just go down easily. And he is going to try to stop whatever Jason Bateman's character is going to do. Which, like, let me tell you something about casting in Hollywood right now. Bad guy casting is absolutely phenomenal right now. When I think Jason Bateman, I do not think of a bad guy, but seeing him as a bad guy, specifically as like this exact bad guy, I am so excited for what he has in store for his career. This was an excellent casting choice. And again, talking into What Are You Up To Wednesday, another Hollywood bad guy that is just like, you'd think these are charming good guys, but no, they were Channing Tatum. Fantastic bad guy. Like, we need more of these type of castings where they're these charmable, loving characters most of the time, and then put them in a bad guy role and let them blossom. Like, yes, I know, like, the go-to bad guy is like Giancarlo Esposito or someone, but like, that's the past. We're on to like unsuspecting bad guys now. Well, because I think that's also more realistic, because I'm sorry, you can't tell me that some guy who he's got like bad guy face, you know what I'm talking about? A guy with bad guy face. Yeah. If he goes and tries to like sneak through TSA, like, I'm sorry, they're going to be like, hey, you have bad guy face. I mean, to be fair, Jason Bateman had the whole like hat hiding his, like, he had the bad guy, like, I understand, but he doesn't have like inherent bad guy face. Like, he could also just be like tired dad,
You know what I mean?
That's true. He does have tired dad
He's
face.
a very versatile character, and I think it's very interesting that we're seeing, the industry lean into more versatile characters. Because, like you said, I feel like we've also seen a lot of comedians take a turn and do some like darker action / bad guy roles, and I think it works. It works pretty well.
I mean, my push was make Hollywood less hot. That's like, let's go. So like this. I am so excited for the movie just for the casting alone. But this looks good. This gives me Die Hard vibes, and I'm here for it. We're watching this day one.
And also, I feel like I can't remember if it was last week or the week before when we were talking about Mission Impossible, and I was commiserating and saying, we have all of these action stars who are they're getting up there in age. It's becoming less believable to believe that like a 60 or 70-year-old dude could be doing these stunts and doing these action roles. And I was like, we don't have a good young action star anymore. And aside from Glenn Powell and Tom Holland, I feel like Taron Egerton, I totally forgot about him. I think he has done a lot of really good roles lately. And he also is very versatile between Tetris, was it Black Crow?
Black Crow was so good.
I feel like everything that I've seen him in, he can do drama, he can do a little bit of humor, he can do suave, he can do action. I feel like he's really got it all, and it's great.
And his jaw structure, so good.
Phenomenal. You could cut butter on that jaw.
What?
I don't know. All right. So that's our news topics for this week. It was a little bit light on news. I'm not going to lie to you guys. We were struggling to come up with some news topics for this week because the Game Awards are next week, I believe. Maybe the week after. The Game Awards are soon. I feel like a lot of the industry is just kind of on pause, waiting for, Black Friday, waiting for the holiday, waiting for the Game Awards and all of these end of the year wrap ups. So it was a little late this week, but hopefully we wet your whistle and we'll also have some What Are You Up To? But first, we would be remiss. Even though Legal is not here, we have to use his tagline. We would be remiss if we did not shout out our fantastic Patreon producer, Mr. Steven Keller. Steven has been with us at the night level for quite a while now. For his support, he gets occasional guest spots on our show. He gets to influence our quiz topics when we have all three of us here for the game show. He also gets access to our secret segment and our monthly vlogs, and we appreciate him very greatly. If you want to be as cool as Steven, you can hop on over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast and check out our 3 different tiers of subscription: the Page, the Squire, and the Knight. Every subscription helps us keep our lights on over here at Online Warrior Central, and we appreciate it greatly.
I'm Madam Chris.
And I'm Madam Amy.
And we're the hosts of the Madams Podcast, where it's all about movies, minus the mansplaining.
Every week, we discuss a film that fits into a quirky theme for the month.
And there's plenty of bonus content on our Patreon feed, too.
So if you're looking for commentary that'll make you laugh and think, you found your new favorite show.
New episodes of the Madams drop on Mondays, wherever you get your podcasts.
And you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at The Madams Pod, or on our website, themadamspod.com.
All right, and we are back from that wonderful break. I hope you all went to the bathroom, took care of business, whatever you had to do, because we're getting into our What Are You Up To Wednesday. And we have a very juicy one this week. Even though there's only 2 of us, we have some pretty juicy stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Techtic, would you like to go first?
What?
Maybe talk about the thing that you forced me to watch the other night.
So I had already kind of alluded to it a little bit. We watched Blink Twice, where Channing Tatum was the bad guy.
That was not the thing I thought you were going to go with
this
first.
This is the thing I already alluded to.
Okay.
And like this movie, I knew it was going to be good and like kind of dark, but like this was good, very dark, and like done really, really well. I 10 out of 10 recommend this movie. And again, casting people like Channing Tatum to be the bad guys is such a fantastic choice. And then the good guys, like, I don't want to spoil things because like there was no moment in this movie where I knew what was going to happen next or like how it was going to happen or what. But like, I really just want to say, check out this movie. Blink Twice. Yeah.
Yeah, without giving too much away, I will agree. I typically don't like scary movies, and I don't think this is really a scary movie. I think this is more of a thriller. I'm trying to think. There was a movie I don't know, there's stuff like Skeleton Key, I kind of feel like is in the same vein in terms of the scary level for people who are trying to gauge how scary this movie is. Not very scary, just kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat and you're trying to figure out what's going on more than anything else. That being said, again, without trying to give anything away, I am very curious because Zoe Kravitz both co-wrote and directed this movie. I believe she might have produced it too. Someone fact check me, but she had a heavy hand in creating this movie. And I often wonder how much of this was influenced by, she is entrenched in this industry. She grew up around it. Her father was part of the celebrity entertainment industry. And I just wonder how much of that influence and how crept into the storytelling.
What a yikes take.
Here.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, especially in light of a lot of things that have happened in said industry in the news lately. I'm very just curious to, I wish I could get a behind the scenes look at the creation of this movie and what some of its influences were, even if it wasn't influenced by any of that stuff though. And again, I'm trying to intentionally keep it vague so you have no idea what I'm talking about if you haven't watched the movie yet, but if you did watch the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But even if it wasn't influenced by, current events, I feel like it's still such a good movie and hits home. It's great. I would watch it again. 10 out of 10.
Recommend. Then the other thing I wanted to talk about was we had watched the entirety of the Mike Tyson Jake Paul event. And I got to give a shout out to all of the boxers prior to the main event. The first match was kind of slow, but the second and third, holy cow, you guys fought your hearts out. Those were the headliners. And then it wrapped up with Dancing with the Stars. Basically, no one was really throwing punches. It was slow. And ultimately, the person that no one wanted to win won. Jake Paul won. I'm spoiling it intentionally because it is not worth your time watching. This was not a good match to watch.
No, it was not it. And I am not a boxing fan. I don't think I've ever actually sat down and watched boxing. I've watched movies about boxing, but I've never watched actual boxing. And when I tell you, the skin flaps hanging off of people, and then Netflix went in for the 4K zoom in to show me the skin flapping in the breeze and the blood and gore underneath. What? If you're a big fan of boxing, hit me up. I'm just very curious. Why? I get, especially Techtic said the openers on the card were pretty good, I guess. But also, you're just seeing these poor people beat their shit out of each other. And I'm just so confused. I'm so confused.
Only
by the
to
whole
lose,
thing.
too. Ugh.
Well, and their faces are getting disfigured. They don't even look like themselves at the end. I'm just very confused.
The two girls, I'm drawing a blank on their names, but and to be fair, I'm drawing a blank on everyone's name. But the one that had the skin flap on her eyeball, she had most hit percentages, most hits, contact, all of the stats, only to lose. That was nuts to me. Boxing is wild. That's my summation. I'm gonna kick it over to you, Nerdbomber.
In summation, boxing is wild. So I'm still playing Dragon Age on my end. It's still very, very good. I'm picking up more and more companions. I have officially pissed off a companion who won't really talk to me or come back home anymore. If you've played the game, again, this is kind of me intentionally being vague so nothing gets spoiled, but I'm sure you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to lie, I don't really mind that person is mad at me that much. Additionally, I'm starting to get to the point in the game where I have to pick my romantic preference because let's be real. In any BioWare game, you're going to pick a romance. You have the option to do so. You're going to do it. And I'm really struggling right now to pick between two characters. One is a little bit lukewarm to me, but has the equivalent of a puppy. So, it's a tough choice. It's a tough choice out there. Other things that I've been into, I've finished a couple books. I've finished Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, which was a really, really good book. If you like Sally Rooney, if you don't, you probably won't like this one very much either. She definitely does have a very unique, almost stream of consciousness writing style at times. And I thought the way that she implements, though, that writing style is very unique. Like, she switches points of view throughout Intermezzo. It's a story about two brothers who, have recently lost their father, and they're kind of struggling to find their place in life, but also like rectify their relationship because they've never been very close. And the way that the different points of view are written, like one character is really suffering mentally, depressed, a little bit of manic at times, having addiction issues with various drugs and alcohol, and where his mental state is throughout the book is kind of reflected in how manic and stream of consciousness like the writing is. And then it's a little bit more structured when he's starting to pull himself together or feel a little bit better. And I just find that super fascinating. It's just a very like day in the life type writing. Like there's nothing that truly gets resolved, but it's just following these characters as they're working through some hard times. And it's not like nothing groundbreaking is happening, but it's just a really interesting examination of people's life, as most Sally Rooney books are. I also finished, I believe it's called The Wild Hunt. That was fairly decent as well. It was a pretty, in my opinion, slightly generic fantasy book, but was exactly what, the doctor ordered at the time. I really, I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it enough, and it was a fun little diversion. And then last but not least, and I know Techtic's going to probably chime in on this, Pokémon TCG Pocket.
Yo.
It came out a while ago. I've kind of held off on talking about it, but man, it's just good. It's really addictive. You're opening packs, you get free packs every day, so you're not necessarily sinking money into it. They've kind of distilled down the game format, so it's a little bit simpler and quicker, and just, I think, a little bit more accessible for people. And I don't know, it's just great, man. Except I'm convinced that there is a difference between how Pokemon treats Apple players versus how
I've been
Pokemon
on a crazy dry spell.
Android players. So there was this drop event where you'll get a Lapras EX by completing, a battle over and over and over again. And Techtic, I think, has 7 Lapras EXs. That might be a little bit too much. It might be 5. I got 1 before the event ended, and I was playing it every day to the max, however many times I was allowed to play. And I only got 1 that entire time. And even his pull rates are a little bit better than mine. So
no, I'm telling you, days. I haven't gotten a rare card. Days.
I don't know, man. Even in Pokemon Go, I feel like there's a little bit more, bias towards the Android players. You always get better shinies than me. I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, I would say if you're on the fence, if you're on the bubble looking at it and being like, oh, do I need another thing on my phone to, distract me and pull me down a rabbit hole? I would say yes. And I would also say that if you have, self-control and you're not going to spend a ton of money, I think it kind of self-limits you and how much time you can really sink into the game as well, because there's only so much you can do within a day before timers run out, or you run into limitations with your deck and you need to pull more cards, but you don't have the timer to do so. So I feel like it does a really good job, kind of almost like self-limiting the time that you can spend in the game too. As long as you have self-control and won't spend a ton of money. We do have a friend who said he spent what was it, $100 already?
Under 100. He said 50. So I said, all right, as long as you're not dropping, 3 figures, you're good.
3 figures. Techtic, did you have anything else to add to the what are you up to this week?
Stay safe and keep on podcasting.
Yeah, we don't have illegal this week, so we don't have a quiz, which means Techtic is marching ever closer to defeat at the end of the season. He's losing opportunities to win and catch up to the rest of us, and I'm not even sorry about it. I'm not even mad.
I already told them to stay safe and keep on podcasting.
All right, so I guess that's it. Come find us on Blue Sky. We're kind of rebuilding over there. We already gave you our handles, but if you forgot, we're at onlinewarriors.bsky.social. We're at ownerdbomber.bsky.social. And we're at tactic.bsky.social. And with that, we bid you adieu, and we'll see you next week. Stay safe and keep on podcasting.